What does it take to make workshops work? And how can we facilitate collaboration that sticks and leads to results? My name is Miriam Happness, and with the Workshops Work podcast, I'm on the mission to find the magic ingredients that make workshops work. Today with me on the show is Nadia von Holzen, and we talk about facilitation beyond the toolbox. So stay tuned. And by the way, if you don't have pen and paper at hand to take your own notes, why don't you visit workshops.work and download my free one-page summary. And now, enjoy. Nadia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We've had so many conversations already, non-recorded.
Non-recorded, in the coffee.
That finally we get the opportunity. And when I think of Nadia von Holzen, I think of Liberating Structures. So I guess I'm going to hear a little bit about that. And before we dive into it, when did you start calling yourself a facilitator?
That went smoothly, gradually, actually. I cannot remember a date or an event. I'm a trained teacher. I worked with adults as language teacher in projects. I was always in this how. I was always working with methods and how can I activate people. So that's actually my red thread through my whole career. And then I did an evaluation postgraduate study. And at the end of the study, I heard for the first time the term knowledge management. That's 20 years back. So I was intrigued by this knowledge management, knowledge sharing. And indeed, I moved into this direction. I was so intrigued. So that was my future work. I went into this. And facilitation is just the other side of the coin of knowledge sharing. Knowledge sharing is a lot about facilitation. So I moved into this. Through sharing knowledge, facilitated workshops for annual reports, things like this. And so gradually moved into this, started to do trainings here and there, different things like that. And I can really not recall when I called myself a facilitator. Yeah, it was smoothly.
Two things you were saying. One is that you're coming from the educational space. So it was always about the how. And it seems to me as if many facilitators come rather from the coaching mindset, which is always about the why. Where do you see the difference and how does it impact the way you facilitate to have the how in the focus instead of the why?
I don't say that I don't have the why not in the focus, because the why is a really important discussion and dear to me. And this is so key, the why. But where I come from is a different walk indeed. It's really the how. And what's important in the how is, for me at least, is really engaging people. It's about people. It's people's business. It's really people orientation. I always cared for people and to bring them in and to hear all perspectives. That's my core, probably my core driver. Yeah. And then combined with the why, you get actually very strong.
Yeah, that's powerful. Definitely.
Yeah.
Often we fail in our mission because of the how. So the why we get there, the what we get there, and then it comes to the how. And this, I would like to link this back to what you mentioned about the knowledge management. That yes, in the workshop, you activate knowledge. You said it's about knowledge sharing, but then how do you bring your background or your expertise of knowledge management into that? Because I think this is very linked to the how, and it's very linked to what actually happens after the workshop.
Yeah, then this goes into process. And I think process is another important keyword. And what I think, and now I maybe go a bit wider, when I think about the current situation of working in COVID, under the restrictions we have, there is one thing that's coming out. This is this process thinking, because we cannot transport a 3-day event into the virtual space. It's impossible. You have to spread it over time, make a process out of it. And this is so key. This is so important. And this is something that will stay with us. And luckily, because we might get nostalgic about the 3 days event in a nice hotel, but actually, when you look at it from the perspective of learning, this is not really effective, because you pack all into 3 days, and then people fly and are enthusiastic and think, wow, that's great. And then you go home, and then reality hits. And then what's actually the outcome of all this? How are people really then adopting new ways of working and integrating their learning into practice? And now, because we have to work differently, we have to spread it over time, and people come up for follow-up sessions. I just had a design session where we talked about pre-coaching. So get people on board before the workshop with 3 pre-coaching sessions, then go into the actual workshop, which is still the central key part, and then have follow-up sessions. So you spread it over 2 months maybe. So it's more ongoing. And I think this process thinking is so key. And when it comes to knowledge sharing or learning or collaboration in general, it's really in the process where we make the difference. We need to activate our brains over time, and not just for an event. I made yesterday, I had another workshop yesterday where I explained exactly this, and they came up with a metaphor. So before COVID, it was the big hotel. We went to the big hotel, stayed there for 3 days, and had a great, intensive, magnificent time where people were motivated. Now it's more about the bungalows spread. You go to a little bungalow for 2 hours interaction, and then you go to another bungalow. So it's rather the bungalow spread over time, and also in the space, wherever virtual or, it's this.
And I find it very thought-provoking how you put it, that it's not about the 2 days or 3 days workshop anymore, but about the process. And I definitely see a lot of value in that. How did it change the way you prepare a workshop? Would you still prepare it in the same way, or how does it translate then in the work that you're actually doing?
No, it changed the way of working indeed, because it's actually a joint learning process from the side of we as facilitators, organizers, together with the participants, because you learn on the go and you adapt on the go. It's much more agile, much more adapted to the needs, because it's a lot about listening what others bring in, what they say, and linking it to their context and their reality. So this is much more, in a way, much more improvisational, and that's nice. And people are coming in differently into a workshop. They are part of it. I also struggle sometimes with calling people participants, because they're more than that. It's a bit, here is the facilitator or the organizer, and here are the participants. And then you might even have then these famous speakers and resource persons. I think it's all a bit of nonsense and outdated. I think these are contributors. I see the people coming in. They not only come in with questions and needs. Sure, we have to understand their context, but they come in with contributions. They come in as players, as actors, in a much more active way. And sometimes participants, we all experienced bad meetings, bad workshops in the last 20 years.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I've never thought of that. And it almost sounds as if participants is the illusion of being active. But it's actually the contribution that we aim for. It's not just participating. It's not a game. It's contributing to the outcome.
It's doing it together, doing the thinking work together. It's
so that
all
they
about
own the output.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about conversation. It's about interaction. Yeah. And there we are equal partners. And I think, the challenges we face, just take COVID, but beyond COVID, climate, this is really, this is heavy, this is complex. Who knows? We don't know the answer. this is not about bullet point meetings. I mean, we also have them, but then do them quick and dirty, go through your bullet points. This is the transactional part of meetings, but we need a lot of transformational kind of meetings where we really can go deeper and advance in our thinking and learning. For me, there's always a learning part in all we do when we do these kind of workshops, meetings.
Absolutely. I think if you come together with other people and you're willing to listen, to understand, then by definition, you will learn. And I wonder whether the way how you described how the process of organizing a workshop and onboarding the clients and contributors, whether it's maybe also a reflection of a new zeitgeist of slowing down.
Yeah.
So before, we didn't have time, we're rushed. We have to find 3 days that everyone has time to come together and then rush in, rush out, and then wonder why nothing happens. While now we are almost forced to slow it down and to stretch it, as you explained. And this might actually contribute to the sustainability of the outputs, because we take time to really make sense out of it and get the contributors, I'm adapting your language, contributors to the mindset that they will need then to do the work.
Yeah, I agree fully. I think there's a lot in this, that taking time for reflection is really no luxury. I mean, we have to do things and we are busy and sure, but every now and then to have a moment of pause and get out of our busyness and thinking and getting to individually or together with others, what's actually going on. And I think this is really needed.
Yeah.
And the other thing you're saying here, I think what is important, that collaboration is so important and so needed in this world, that we cannot leave the process thinking and this level of thinking about the how to professional facilitators. And that's maybe the zeitgeist you mentioned. I think through COVID, it is accelerated, it's speeded up, but it was already there before COVID. It's not new to COVID that we have to think, how can we collaborate? And by moving all online, we are thinking about, because what didn't work in the in-person physical space is unbearable in the virtual space. So we have to adapt it.
Yes.
And this needs some thinking. How do we want to collaborate?
And if I understand you correctly, then you mean with a collaboration, and it's not only the facilitator who is in charge of the process. You're referring to the client, to the manager, or to all the contributors?
Yes, I refer to I call them the people. Can be a client, can be a network, can be a community, a team. It's not only the leader of the team, it's really the team member. I think some process knowledge, some skills, how to work together are urgently needed, because you might bring in an external facilitator for big events. Sure, fine, agree, makes sense. But for the daily collaboration, there we need to pep it up. There we have to update it. And therefore, where do we learn this? We really need facilitation trainings and thinking about collaboration in the daily work to make it better.
Yes. And before I ask you how we can learn and train that, just one reflection that crossed my mind is that only through this, if collaboration becomes a year-long daily habit, then also the outcomes in the workshop will be different and more effective, because it's a muscle we are growing. If we're used to work in silos all year long, and then suddenly we are put into a room with 10 other people and expected to collaborate and to be creative, to then go back into our silos, how on earth can this be sustainable in the first place?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how can we learn that?
Yeah, it's this process muscle we need in the daily work. And I mean, lovely that you have an external facilitator for a great annual meeting, but this is just once. So what about the weekly meetings? I mean, I hear people complaining about weekly meetings, but we have to change them from inside out. Don't wait for the team leader or for the hierarchy. Do this from inside out. There is always room. There is always place. There are always opportunities to step in. And people are grateful. I mean, now in online, because it's so novel for a lot of organizations, that there is this spirit in the air to experiment, and people are grateful. And why is this not possible in the room?
And I think it really depends also on the culture. If you're sitting in one of these meetings where you have the department head reading out an email for 1 hour and maybe asking some of the team leads to contribute with their emails, I think it's very difficult for someone who's sitting there, literally wasting their time, to come up with this, oh, let's do it differently. Why don't we start with a check-in? Or, oh, now that we heard the contribution from the department head, let's do a 1, 2, 4 all, to reflect on that and to come up with questions. And I think this is what is actually needed, because what I observe is 20 minutes of input. And then, are there any questions? Of course, there are no questions, because we cannot turn to our neighbor to actually just have a brief conversation to then actually contribute and ask the question.
Yeah, we have to stop. This is nonsense. I really think we have to stop. It's urgent that we stop this behavior. We don't have to bring input and content in a meeting like this and put people in this passive role of being the listener and consumer. That's why I'm not happy with the framing of people as participants. We have to bring people in interaction. It's not content and it's not input that it is interacting. It's people interacting about the content, about the question. And if we understand this, then we can't go back to giving inputs like this. And now we have this fantastic option with online that we see that we still can have input. I mean, we need input, but we can deliver it differently. People can watch it at their time, make a video, write a good blog post. There's so many options and channels. And then when you bring people together, which is a luxury time because it costs money, it costs time, then make the best out of it. And if you just put people into the listening space, then forget it. Unless you make a good TED talk. I mean, there are other dimensions, but we talk about daily collaboration in teams and organizations.
I don't think that there's any department head or team leader who thinks in the morning, oh, today I'm going to deliver the most boring meeting ever, and I will speak for 20 minutes, and then everyone zones out, and then I can check the box. So I think that either they're ignorant or they don't know about the impact and how bad it actually is, or they don't know any better.
I think that not knowing how is probably the problem. I think people feel that this is not the most satisfying way. But getting out of patterns, of habits, of ways of doing, and then again, taking time to look under the iceberg, because there are a lot of beliefs, assumptions, how it is done. And we haven't learned it. I mean, where have we learned how to collaborate and how to facilitate? I think facilitation skills are for a lot of people in their positions actually key. They need some basic facilitation skills because they have a lot of meetings. So if you have a profession with a lot of meetings, what you need is this.
Yeah. What is holding managers back to rethink the way they have meetings, and how can we learn these facilitation skills? What is the minimum facilitation skill we would need that would have the biggest impact according to you?
Yeah, I mean, facilitation is all about interaction, but you take another lens, another perspective, that you look at it from the how. And the how is really about what kind of activity and then people. It is interaction and people. And what people do when I observe people who are probably not so, didn't go so much into facilitation, They jump at content. They have another lens. They talk about building blocks and they have content. And then they think they need a toolbox, which is already good, because when you think about toolbox, you move into the how. There's nothing wrong with toolboxes. But the perspective at jumping first to the content is actually the challenge. And now we come to your first question. It all starts with the why. Why do we have this meeting? What do we want to achieve together? And make this purpose, this intention shared. It's not only mine. It's the ownership is of all the people I call in. And then comes the question, what do we have in the end? So you can verify your purpose by asking, what are the expected results? I think that's the second question that has to follow. A lot of people forget about it. I'm already happy when they think about the why, but we should also verify our why with the results. That's a good thing to do. And the results are on different levels. And there, it's not only about a report or clarifying some questions it's also very the intrinsic, the intangible things of motivation, of being human, of being rewarded, of being heard, of being respected, all those kind of things, and inspiration and creativity. All these human values are so important in collaboration.
Yeah. And I think it's so true that it's to have in mind what kind of results we want. And then I would even go a step further to relink it to what you said about the knowledge management, then also what to do with these results. Because if we just have a report at the end, or if we just have a list or a priority, and then what?
Here we are again in the process. Yes, exactly. So this kind of thinking on this level of how, I think it's a must. So some in-house facilitation training or sending people into facilitation trainings or talking about it, already having a conversation. Hey, the way we collaborate in our meetings, are we happy with this? I mean, that's probably already a good thing to start.
Yeah. And I wonder, and now it's my sneaky way to link it to liberating structures. I wonder whether learning the language of liberating structures, understanding the different ways of putting contributors. I don't like the word people, I must say.
Yeah, it's also a bit, yeah.
The way how we put contributors, our colleagues together in order to achieve a specific result. Do you think that is this the holy grail that all organizations have to learn liberating structures? And
I don't know if it's a holy grail, but it's a simple, easy way. Liberating structures offers a different approach, but there are several levels. And the entry point or the door opener is the toolbox. Mm-hmm. If you mentioned 1, 2, 4, all. This is one of the liberating structures where first you think for 1 minute or 2 alone. And this is a good point to start. Start where you are. Then you have a conversation in pairs. Then you bring it together in a group of 4. And then you bring the whole group together. So you build it up. This is one of the basic structures, which is repeated in many other structures. So this toolbox is a good entry point because it's simple. It's well explained. It's for each of the structures, always the same steps. It's explained how to do it. So this is helpful. You can do it. I also started like this. I remember I heard about liberating structures years back by Nancy White from the Knowledge Management for Development community. She was one of the early adopters. And then I saw the book, so I bought the book, and I just used some of the structures and combined it with other things, how I did. So it was, for me, really in the beginning, a toolbox. And then what happened, I think it was in 2018, that Keys came over with Fisher. And Keys is one of the founders. Keys and Henry, they started Liberating Structures. They came over for the first European gatherings. There were 4 gatherings in Berlin, Amsterdam, London, and Brussels. And for me, it was clear, I have to go there. So I went and I discovered another world because we went beyond the toolbox. It was this immersion, this experience, and another door opened. You go deeper into it and you see, hey, there is more to it. There is really a shift in the way how you work together.
So what is beyond the toolbox?
Beyond the toolbox is a philosophy. There is this philosophy how you work together in a much more equal way in really bringing all perspectives together. There are the principles and they emerged from the practice, and there are actually practices as well. The first one is unleash everyone. So hear all perspectives. And that's again, it's not about participants and facilitators. It's really about we doing it together. And I remember I entered the room in Amsterdam just as a picture also that stayed with me. And we were about 100 participants. Wow. So this whole room at the Impact Hub in Amsterdam was full of chairs arranged in circles of 4. So you came into this room and thought, wow, what's happening here? So it was obvious an invitation to sit in a circle of 4, no words needed. And what happened was a 1, 2, 4, all. And this was just nice. It was just beautiful. It was just different. It was a deep message. And I advise everyone who is curious, try it. Use Toolbox, go wild with it. But if you have the opportunity, immerse yourself in this experience in one of these workshops, because it's really helpful to experience it yourself, what it does.
Hey, since you are listening to this podcast, I was wondering whether you get enough opportunities to exchange, practice, and experiment with other facilitators. Have you heard of the Never Done Before Facilitation Festival? It's a 24-hour global event that is co-created by its participants and delivered by some of the most popular Workshops Work podcast guests. Visit neverdonebefore.org for more information. Use the code WORKSHOPSWORK to get a 20% discount. The festival starts as soon as you join. Now, back to the show.
And do you think that the number 4, also when we now talk about the online workshops, online meetings, do you think that 4 is the magic or maybe maximum number that you can have of people in the same breakout room?
Number of 4? No. It depends, as always. I think there are no clear rules for this kind of questions. It depends, because sure, online in general, the groups in the breakout are smaller. Agree. You can do you have nice conversations in breakouts with 2, 3, 4, but more is possible. It depends. If you do, I'm not a purist. I'm absolute liberating structures practitioner. I'm also trained in art of hosting. I do world cafes. I love open space. I think it's really combining things. I do also unhurried conversations. I'm connected with Johnny Moore, and he started Unhurried Conversations. I just want to bring this in to show you that more than 4 are possible, because I'm hosting Unhurried Conversations with, we were sometimes groups of 10, of 12, but then it's the slow process. Unhurried, obviously slow. Liberating structures are rather fast. And there we might come back to this. There's something about pace, what I discovered. But let's first with unhurried, how this goes. This is a different kind of conversation, different kind of pace. What you need is a talking piece. Mm-hmm. So an object. When you are meeting in a room, you have a circle. People are sitting in a circle and you have one talking piece and you pass it or you grab it and put it back into the center. That's a circle practice also. This is doable online. It's just the difference that everyone has his or her own talking piece and has to show it and put it down. And this gives a different pace in a conversation, which is much slower. But then you have more time. This is just so lovely. You have these more meandering conversations. Mm. And then it's possible with more people.
Yeah, makes total sense. Thank you for bringing that up. According to you, what makes a workshop fail?
Yeah, then we come back to the why. If there is no why, no clear why, no shared purpose, no intention, then whatever happens is what happens. That can be lovely. Maybe you have a good conversation if they're nice people, but it's probably not the purpose of the workshop. So this is the crucial thing. And then maybe if you know why, but you still can mess it up by just bringing the wrong people. And that's a nice side story. There's actually at the moment something going on because online, it's so easy to bring in more people. There is a little tendency, I heard this several times this week, that more people are invited into workshops because it's so easy. I mean, you just send the link and more people join. It's probably not the best thing to do. So really think about why are these people here? It's not only why this workshop, but why these people and what are these people contributing and what are they doing with it? And I mean, it's again the why question.
The phrase words create worlds just comes to my mind because the moment you call participants contributors, you solve this issue. Because if it's just a participant, you can be a silent participant. You're just in the room. If you're labeled a contributor, it must be very clear what your role is in this session. So I like that.
Yeah, I think thinking about roles is important. And it brings me to another thing, which I truly believe is that we have to co-facilitate. I'm an independent facilitator, so I'm called in and work together, but I never facilitate alone. I'm always pairing up with a team of organizers in-house. I work a lot with knowledge networks, so still my story of knowledge management comes back here. So I always pair up, and I'm not in the content, I'm for the process. So I need a partner who is in the content. I'm not doing summaries if someone knows much better what it is about. It's not my task. So I always pair up with someone. So I'm always in co-facilitation, and I love co-facilitation. And I think people should always co-facilitate because it's much better. The workshop's much better.
I agree. And you just mentioned that you would even pair up with someone from inside the organization, in-house.
Yeah.
How would you go about the selection process? Who is the suitable person to be your co-pilot in this?
It's mainly, I mean, I'm called in by someone who is already thinking about this workshop. So obviously it's this person or in the team of this person.
I see the benefit of an external facilitator that they are not in the process and that they are not supposed to contribute or to participate. Isn't there then a problem that if your client calls you in and then they are becoming co-facilitators, how can they then still be neutral in the process and also participate or contribute?
It depends probably on the kind of workshops. As I said, I work mainly in knowledge management, knowledge sharing. And this is really, I mean, I talk here about big face-to-face meetings of network meetings. And I don't know about this. Yeah, I mean, do you have to be neutral to design a workshop? Probably not, because I need this knowledge. It's really putting our different perspectives together. If it's about different topics, it's probably different. But if you share knowledge, I'm not so sure about it.
I don't think that you have to be neutral for the design of a workshop, but I think it helps. Can we ever be totally neutral? No, we cannot. And we also have our personality and our opinions. But I think the neutrality in the workshop to guide it, to facilitate it, to have the outside view to say, oh, maybe there's a topic that has been neglected. Maybe there's an elephant in the room. Maybe I think as an external facilitator, if you don't have stakes, you might be able to better point out biases, blind spots, all these kind of things.
Sure, fully agree on this. Sure, absolutely. And for me, it's really, I go even beyond that. It's co-facilitation. It's really an organizing team, and you try to involve people. And in the process. So we come again into the process thinking already before the workshops. So you talk to people, you bring different people in. You will have probably different, if I talk about bigger events now, you have probably different smaller conversations, which are again co-facilitated. So these people are also in the process briefed, and you have chats about the how. Then you have different roles. It's about reporting. It's about logistics. It's about the facilitation part. There's so many aspects. So for me, the main message is collaboration is teamwork, and facilitation is also teamwork. It needs a team. I cannot, as an external person, do a workshop for someone. That would be so strange.
Yeah.
I cannot own the workshop. It's not my workshop. It's this organization or this team or these networks workshop.
You make it easy. Yeah.
And one more thing about, I think, when people in-house facilitate in a team meeting or in-house workshops, then often one person is assigned, you do it. Then it starts, because it's all the different roles and tasks are put on the shoulder of one person. And that's much too heavy. So even there, I think, in a team, that's why I think process knowledge is so important. It is teamwork, and there are different roles. And it's again beautiful in online, which makes it very obvious, because how can you facilitate the workshop and handle the technology at the same time? And then comes documentation, and then comes the chat, and then comes the troubleshooting. So you see the different roles. And I always tell people, share it, bring people in. You're never alone. Even if I'm the only facilitator in an online workshop, I'm never alone. There are the contributors, the participants.
Yeah.
Share roles. It's their workshop. Share roles. Give them a task. Give them responsibility.
Yeah. And I think it's also an underused opportunity to just ask one of the contributors, please look at the chat. And if there's something coming up, let us know. So be the MC of the chat.
Yes.
So that you don't have to carry all the responsibility. Good one.
And people love it. And there are always some cracks who love to do it.
Yes. I would like to come back to one thing you mentioned earlier, when you talked about the circle conversations and the unhurried conversations, and you talked about this. You mentioned the word pace.
Yeah.
That there's a lot about pace that you would like to talk about. And I would like to invite you to talk about pace.
Yeah, this is linked to liberating structures. We go back to my own experience with the 100 people and the circle of 4. So this was my personal immersion in the world of liberating structures and opening really a box of Pandora. And one thing which troubled me then was the pace. It was fast. On top of it, I must say, in this experience there, of the 100 people were about 80 male agile scrum masters, which was a funny experience. And it's nice to get out of my bubble into another one. And I remember then that I had a chat with Keys about the pace. And I said, it's much too fast. And we had an argument. So he was clear, that's the timing, and it's 2 minutes, and here's 3 and 4. And for me, this was at that time complete nonsense. I thought, no, that's much too fast. We need more time. Now, since then, my thinking, my practice changed a lot. And in the meantime, I work with the clock and with timing, which was for me before this experience impossible. And I think there is some important thinking behind there. We have the tendency to talk a lot. Once we have the opportunity in a workshop, we have the feeling we have to tell everything we know. But it's not about that. The listening part is forgotten. Listening is as important as talking, probably even more important. This I also discovered through Unhurried, by the way, and the circle practice. And it's about coming more to the essence and more of building it together. And this is happening in liberating structures, which is really rather fast. You can do it slower. There's also the slow pace, but in general, it's timed and it's focused. You have good invitations. And this is the structure that allows them to really discover. And then another interaction. Interactions are coming in series. You don't have one conversations. You have many conversations followed one after the other. And one conversation is rather short, but then another one comes, and you come to the essence. You have different kind of results. It's called stringing. In the Liberating Structures language. It's not so necessary to know this, but I think there is the truth in this one.
And what I love about that is that it keeps the focus on what is, and maybe that's the Agile Scrum thing, how it plays in. What is the most important conversation that we can have right here, right now? And then to put them together so that at the end of the workshop, the group has the impression, oh, wow, we all agree on one outcome and the priorities. How did we get there? Because it seems so natural. And that's, I think you mentioned this in an exploration call, that's the liberating part of the structures.
Yeah.
Where, okay, it's so structured, it's so clear, it's so guided that it will unleash and really liberate.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a little bit like improvisation. I started improvisation theater, and this is nice. I challenge myself. I always like to challenge myself. But the nice thing is that with little rules, you manage to play together. And this is what Liberating Instructions does. I'm not a musician. The other metaphor would be jazz. I mean, free jazz, improvisation. You need some basic rules that you can play together, some boundaries, which holds all this together. And then magic is possible. Yeah. But the balance is delicate, huh? How much structure and how little structure. I mean, we had the tendency of no structure at all. Then you have these open, lengthy discussions. That's why these people struggle then with liberating structure, because they say they don't have the time because they're used to this lengthy blah, blah, blah. And then there is the overstructure.
Yeah.
So it's finding the right balance in between again and again, each time again.
And then also realizing when is it time to slow down.
Yes.
And to take a break from the structure and to just feel into it and think, okay, so now we're touching something that actually needs an unhurried conversation.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what often happens in an unhurried is silence. This you probably don't have in Liberating Structures, but in an unhurried, there is the moment in between when someone puts the talking piece down and nobody takes it up immediately because something is resonating, something is happening. And then you just sit in silence. And in the beginning, that can feel awkward, but I learned I love it. I love this. It's beautiful. Because it's not that nothing is happening. A lot is going on. And then a voice comes in again. Someone grabs the talking piece and it goes on. And it's really, I love this word, meandering. It's really going, from one side to the other and then another. It's like different discussion threads are woven into each other. And it's without interruption. It's really, the listening part is so important in an unhurried conversation.
Yeah, I think I can relate to the silence part, and I think there's something very intimate about silence, and we know it from our private lives that with some people it's very easy to sit in silence, and with others it's disturbing. So I think, as you explain it, this circle is creating this safety where we can feel comfort in silence.
Yeah.
And what I like about the talking stick, and I only realize it now, is that it really forces us to listen and to build on each other. Because if we have everyone raise their hands and then you have a list of, okay, you speak first and then you, and then maybe the fifth person relates to something that is not relevant anymore, or everyone is just making their point, but it's not building on each other. It's not yes-anding.
Yeah. And this is the beauty when you really manage to build on each other, because you create something together. And I think many challenges we face in the world need this quality of conversation, where we really can dive deeper into, we don't know what we don't know. And yeah, how can we go into deeper levels of sense making, also of understanding? I think we need time for sense making.
Mm.
There is this framework called personal knowledge mastery from Harold Yarchi, and he says it's seek, sense, share. And I love this.
Mm.
Seek is also taking the time to get this information and to have my filters where I can access the knowledge, because, there's a lot. It's amazing, this knowledge out there. So what do I need? And then comes the part of sense making, of trying to understand. This can be in individual reflection, but I think conversation is actually an important part in there. And then it's sharing back, it's caring. I share it back. It's this generosity, and others can seek it again. And I think this is important.
And now this term that we used previously, the beyond the toolbox, suddenly makes sense.
Yes.
It's beyond the toolbox. It's you have the tools, but how to weave them together to combine liberating structures with unhurried conversations, to bring the calm, the why, and the process in.
Yes. Yeah. And then comes an important part, and this is the confidence part. We didn't talk about this. Maybe a nice ending. So we bring it back to the people, because it needs confidence to step into the shoes of the facilitator and to just stand there.
Yes.
Also a nice book by Marvin.
I call it
Just stand there. Yeah. So it needs confidence. And what helps is, again, facilitation trainings, there are many out there. I still do it. I still go myself to different kind of trainings and workshops and meetups and whatever, because it's broadened my own horizon and pushing myself a little bit to the edge. So I think it's this part of creativity and curiosity, which is so important in collaboration. And when we talk about, what's happening now, I'm curious, what's happening beyond COVID now? And I think we discovered new options. We talked a lot about process, but we discover also that the human aspect in collaboration, in facilitation, is so important. We are supported by technology. Even we, two of us, we need this technology to talk. But the human aspect is so important, and people want to be in touch. People missed each other now. They want to go back to work, which is actually funny and nice. But this shows something. And I personally, I love my work. I love the meetings I have, but I have the kind of meetings I want to have. And I wish this for everyone, that they have the collaboration they want to have. And this is human. This is relating to each other. This is creativity. This is curiosity. And this is the most important part, and the purpose.
I have nothing more to add to that. I think it's a beautiful...
Thank you.
A beautiful summary, which actually answers my question that I always ask at the very end. If someone fell asleep after minute 2, just woke up and doesn't have time to listen to the entire conversation again, what would you like them to take away from this?
That people are collaborating, and that we have to take care of these people, that they can collaborate. It's not content, it's people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying tuned and listening to the show. I appreciate your attention, as I know how busy you are. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and engage by sharing your comments and thoughts, and visit workshops.work to download the one-page summary. I'm looking forward to seeing you back at the next episode, and I wish you a fruitful day.